Disclaimer: the calculations that are being said are sometimes not accurate because while recording I was having a bit of a brain fart, so the calculations on screen are more accurate. And with that disclaimer, enjoy the video. So I made some videos comparing Dota 2 to League of Legends, but this time
we're doing something just a little bit different.
we, that's right, you and me, are going to imagine League heroes in Dota. You take someone maybe like Mordekaiser and pit him with Dota items and hypothesize how OP he will be then. How exciting. Since we already brought him up, let's start with him. Now of course Dota has a different way to handle scaling since there's no AP or AD, meaning we're going to convert them to intelligence, strength, and agility. Intelligence for AP, agility for the AD champions. Yeah, you get the point. Now of course this way isn't perfect, but I'm too lazy to think of a better one. Now let's start with his passive. 3 hits to create a storm of iron around him, extra movement speed going from 3% to 9%, and it deals 5 plus 30% intelligence plus 1 to 5% of the enemy's max HP every second, with an additional basic attack dealing 40% intelligence magic damage. Now let's take maybe he has 140 intelligence, meaning he'll probably be dealing 60 damage per second. That's pretty big. Now his bonk will deal 0 to 45 based on level, plus 80 to 200 based on the skill level, and 70% intelligence. Now he has 140 intelligence, he'll be dealing 98 plus 200 plus 45 damage, meaning he'll deal 343 damage per bonk, and that is if there's a bunch of people. If there's only one person, it'll be increased based on 50% of the damage, meaning he'll probably be dealing 500 damage per bonk. Now he has the cooldown of 4 at max level. So imagine a bomb going off every 4 seconds in front of him. Now his big ass shield will be scaling off his max health, with the max still 30% and the minimum still 5%. And the shielding to health ratio stays the same at 35 to 42.5%. And a cooldown going from 12 to 8 sounds pretty reasonable, honestly. Now with his claws being something that pulls enemies and stuff, we have to imagine that this ability breaks trees, so it breaks trees. This ability gives Mordekaiser magic penetration from 5 to 15%, so his bonks will deal so much more damage, and it also deals 70 to 130 plus 60% intelligence. So his full combo would be super life-threatening, I suppose. Now his R will, instead of stealing attack damage and ability power, he will be stealing 10% of all attributes, meaning if he ults a fat silencer and win, his intelligence would spike and make him even more of a bomb. Now for a counterplay on this, I would like to make it so he can fat finger it so illusions and creeps can be targeted and then bring to the death realm, but he also destroys illusions if he luckily get the actual thing. Now imagine this guy versus someone like PL though, someone who has so many clones. He can just kill all the clones with his iron aura and see which one is the real one. This guy would honestly be OP. Now let's think about his itemization. Since he's an intelligence bruiser of sorts, I think Thornmail and BKB would be essential. Throw in some Revenant Brooch in there, a Blink Dagger, and maybe even Crimson Guard sounds pretty cool. But then again, you pop your BKB and he becomes useless for 7 seconds. Now the next champion I wanted to be a physical bruiser, so I chose Sett. Now I think Sett would whoop some serious ass in Dota 2, but let's slow down a bit. For his passive, it's basically Huskar's E without the attack speed bonus. But the important part is being able to attack twice in rapid succession. The second punch will deal 50 to 90 plus 55% strength, which is a fuck ton. That means you deal 90 plus about 75, meaning you deal your current attack damage, maybe about, I don't know, 250 plus 90, which is already 340 plus 70, which is a fuck ton. Now his Q is just gonna be straightforward. It's just his passive with more damage, but it also gets increased by the target's maximum HP. Oh, and he gets movement speed as well. Now his Haymaker is pretty interesting. So the grit will be 50% of his maximum HP. Now the damage will be 80 to 60 plus 25% plus 25% per 100 bonus strength of expended grit. That means if Sett has 4.5k HP, which is the normal strength character HP have, and 140 strength, meaning his damage would be 1500 damage. But here's the interesting part. The center will be pure, while the sides will be physical. And with BKB, it will probably be more detrimental being on the side rather than the center, because BKB would negate all of the pure damage. Meanwhile, it doesn't do jack shit to physical damage. Now his E is pretty uninteresting, so you can imagine your own scenarios on here, but his ult, however, a big slam dunk. Now before we go over the stats, let's go over some scenarios though. Imagine you ult someone and your Darkseer or your Magnus pulls in enemies into the center of the slam and then you come in your pants. But, you know, enough imagining. Let's look at stats though. It deals 200 to 400 plus 120% strength plus 40 to 60% of the target's bonus health. Now let's look at the standard Bristleback with 2k bonus health, meaning the damage would be 400 plus 168 plus 1200. That would be 1768 damage, almost as much as his Haymaker.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Imagine this with Refresher. Now let's itemize him. Maybe some Crimson Guard, Shiva's Armlet, Heart of Tarask, Assault Cuirass, and BKB. Maybe you change the Armlet or the Shivas to Blink Dagger, and he sounds pretty broken. Now let's move on to someone who is ranged. Let's take the face of League of Legends, Jinx. Passive is she gets movement speed, takedown, yada yada yada. But she also removes her attack speed cap, meaning she can get more than 700 attack speed just like Troll. Now let's see her switcheroo. Now the damage is self-explanatory, but the rocket needs mana and Dota has anti-mage, which will be a real nail in your anus. But the range would be quite good because she has 525 base range, which is just below the range of Sniper at level 1, but the rocket gives her 200 and max. Dragon Lance will give 150 and Neutral Enhancement will give 110, giving her max range of 885 range, which is a lot. Now let's get to her zap. Now this is kinda interesting, not because of the damage, that's boring, but it says it reveals, meaning if you hit Ricky with luck, you can see him for the duration of the slow, making it quite good. Now her chompers are also boring, but her global rocket, however, this can have some good synergy with someone, I'm sure, but I'm not going to think about it because I haven't think of anything. Now I think she's a standard carry, but the global threat makes it kind of scary. It reminds me of Zimvoke. Now let's get to a spellcaster, meaning a mid laner. I'm thinking of someone who can go toe to toe with the Spirit Brothers. So of course I went to the source of all league knowledge, u.gg, and I saw Leblanc being up there on the S+ tier and think, I think she'll be OP in Dota. When Leblanc gets to 40% health, she turns Invis and creates a clone. Now in Dota this is mainly just to fool someone. Now her Q is pretty interesting because this skill, when you kill a minion with it, it refunds your mana. Meaning this is a really powerful last hit tool, which is something that mid laners need a lot. Now let's see her dash. Now what's more interesting than the damage on this ability is the fact that Leblanc can go back. Meaning it's kind of like Kunkka's X, but with a dash. You can dash to the water rune and pop back to safety in a jiffy. It's even better with ult, but let's see her E first. Her E will make a tether like Io's Q, but filled with hatred, and deals damage. But this ability reveals, you know what that means? Fuck you, Ricky. Now her ult just replicates her last ability used, but imagine this, it's 5:30 and the power runes are gonna go up. She can literally dash to one side, see if it's there, and if it is, she dash again, but if not, she TPs back and dashes to the other side. And if you can't keep up, You predict your E and root the enemy and take the power room. Now her itemization is pretty interesting, honestly. I got some super spicy ones. Power threads, obviously, Dagon, Shiva, maybe Orchid and Witchblade, maybe even Blink. Honestly, Leblanc kind of reminds me of Storm Spirit, mixed in a little bit with Queen of Pain, and yeah. Now if you're at this point of the video and think, oh no, he haven't mentioned any supports yet, don't feel bad, you just need to play an actual role. And that's it for this video. Subscribe if you liked the video, and I'll see you in another one. Goodbye.